Alright, well today I'll be giving you a tutorial on SpeedTree. With this tutorial, I assume you already know how to work with UDK the engine, and you've watched our previous tutorial Mikhail did on using SpeedTree to create grass. So I will not be breaking down a lot of the UI features for you except for the ones that I personally use. So I will start a new tree, and as you see here, here's the basic UI. Down here is our tree hierarchy, and so I'm just going to start by adding a trunk, and you can obviously import your own mesh for the trunk if you like. You can create your own trunk by just holding down spacebar and drawing and creating all of these hand-drawn features essentially for your tree, although for the purpose of this tutorial I'm just going to show you how to create one of their generated trees. So I'm just going to start with the standard stock, although however you have all these options. You can also do a branching tree. Let me show you these real quick. You can do a branching, which will just have lots of branches coming off essentially. Depending on what tree you do, you'll want to do different trunks. There was a palm for palm trees, and then there's also the stalks. Small stalks. I'm going to be using the standard. There's also the variable RT. They're essentially the same thing though. And alright, so now that we got our trunk in here, I'm going to add some material so we can apply these as we go. Let's start with bark, and then leaves. Alright, you can also add them individually with this one. I just added multiple with this guy here. So bark is part of the branches. That's cool. Let's add the diffuse for this. And I actually have a prepared folder with all the stuff. So here it is, maple leaves. And then I'm going to add a normal to this as well so we get to see a little bit more detail. Oh, sorry about that. That was for the bark texture. So let me get the bark texture for this. Normal and bark normal. Alright, cool. Switch over to leaves. Make sure this is on leaves, and I'm going to check this bark just a minute. Okay, cool. Leaves, diffuse, color, maple leaves. And I click normal. Alright, cool. Now with our trunk selected, I'm going to scroll down over here, and I'm going to attach, in the materials, I'm going to attach our material for the bark, which we just created. And there you have it. I'm also going to apply it to the cap so we don't get this untextured spot right here. Alright, cool. So now that we have our basic tree trunk, you can try some of the stuff in generation, although I don't believe it'll do very much. I would suggest you come down here to the spine and the branch options to tweak your values here. You can adjust the length. You can adjust the start angle, although I wouldn't necessarily do that for the trunk. You can do the roll, which will spin it around. Again, this is something that's minimally necessary for the trunk. You can do some disturbances to kind of create a slightly off tree. I'm going to add just a little bit of that so it's not perfectly straight up. And a little bit of jink frequency, a little bit of jink amount, just to give our tree a little bit of life, I feel like. I don't like how it's leaning so far though, so I'm going to adjust our jink amount just to... Alright, cool. So our tree can be leaning. I'm okay with that. And... Alright, so I'm pretty happy with our stock for now. I'm just going to go ahead and add one layer of branches, and then I'm even going to add an additional layer onto our first layer. And again, you have all these different options for branches and branch types. I'm just going to go with our standard for this. I highly encourage that you yourself, though, take the time to explore all these different options and find out the ones you like. Alright, so for starters, just from looking at this, this looks like a lot of branches. So I'm going to come to our level 1 branch, and if you start in generation, you can adjust the frequency. The frequency you can drag and adjust it this way, although it won't update unless it's on a whole number, or a half number I believe will also work. I'm going to drop our frequency down to 4 though. Ooh, not 40, that's a little extreme. Let's go to 4. Alright, that looks a little bit better, not too branchy. Let's check 1, it's got 2, that's okay. And now that we're here, I'm going to scroll down we're going to get to our branch options to adjust some of the stuff. Also the spine options. Mostly in the spine. The length is okay with me for this. I'm going to adjust the start angle though, so the branches, you can adjust start angle so all the branches are going up. I'm going to expand them out a little bit and get our tree going out more. Again, I'm kind of going off of a maple tree. I don't have any reference up, but I think maple trees go out more than they do up. So I'm going to adjust this. You can also adjust the roll of these branches so that they, maybe if you have too many branches going a certain way, you can adjust it this way. You can also add some jinks, which I'm going to do since our tree is supposed to be all janky. And then, alright, I'm going to go up to our level 2 branches and adjust these settings now. Length is okay for me, segment's okay. I'm going to adjust the start angle and get them kind of just going out more to the size of these branches. Alright, now that we got all this in, let's add some leaves. Now, a personal habit I like to do, and again, I encourage you to check out all the different leaf types. I'm just going to go with standard for this because I think it works out nicely for this tree. I'm also going to add leaves to the level 1 branches. This is just something that I do. Everyone, you know, all trees are going to be different. Everybody's going to make their own trees. The one thing that I noticed with this, though, is, see here, whenever you connect these leaves, they get really close to our trunk. And that's not necessarily something I want, so with these leaves I'm going to come up here under generation. I'm going to adjust the first. This will make the first leaf farther away from my stock, which is exactly what I'm going for. I just want to kind of space it out like that. And alrighty then. Now that we are this far, let's apply our leaf texture and see how this looks. You will notice that my leaf texture for this is gray. That's because the way I'm using it in UDK is I'm applying a color to it in the material, allowing me to have several different colored leaves with only one leaf texture. Just allowing me to save some space and speed up some stuff. And alright, so with this we kind of have our tree. You notice this stalk here is kind of sticking out. I would normally fix this by either adjusting the last value of our branches to kind of just push it up like that, which tends to work. I kind of like how that works, but I'm also going to add a little bit of leaves just to our trunk. And this is going to look a little interesting when I first do it because it's just so many leaves right here on the trunk. But I'm going to adjust the first value on this to make it so that, oops, what are we doing here? Leaves. I'm going to adjust these leaves so that the first value is much higher, creating all these leaves not really on the stem but up here at the top, just to kind of hide the top of our tree a little bit. I feel that looks a little better. Again, it kind of depends on each tree. This just kind of hides it within the leaves. But with that, let's see. Ooh, alright, cool. So we have a 10K tree right now. That is pretty good. It's pretty high. So let's go in here and try and clean this up a little bit. Our bottom level of leaves, that's going to be the one where we really need the least. So I'm going to adjust our frequency on this. Make this 1, because we really don't need that many leaves there. It's mostly just a camouflage technique. And alright, now let's check this out. Let's see if 2 will be a dramatic difference. I don't think that's too bad, and it saves us about 500 tries, so it's worth it in my mind. I'm gonna take this also and drop this down to 2. And alright, cool. I think our leaves are still nice and full, but we've reduced them significantly. You can also come down here and adjust some of your other leaf options. However, for the most part, I just leave leaves the way they are. Alright, so now checking this out, we dropped it down to 9.2. So let's go in here a little bit more. With the top level of branches selected, I'm going to go under segments. And under segments, we can adjust the accuracy. The accuracy is how many divisions the branch has lengthwise. And so to kind of show you this, I'm going to turn off leaves so we can see here. as I reduce the accuracy, our branches lose their bends and their jinks, and they become more straight, when eventually they just become single division branches, and they're just straight, and nobody likes that. So I'm going to bring this back up to like 10, let's say. That way we still get some of our divisions, but it's not quite 15. And then we have our length options, our optimization, our radial. Our radial is going to be the other option that mainly adjusts this. Radial is how many divisions each branches have around. And at our highest level of branch, again these ones selected, we don't need them to be entirely round, because they will be hidden by leaves and hardly seen unless you're really up close. And so what I'll tend to do is I'll just take the radial and I'll drop that as low as it can go for this, which is 1. And with that, you'll notice our branches will lose a lot of detail in their width, but they will retain, you know, a lot of the detail that matters. You can't really tell I just dropped that down so much, and it makes a significant difference. We're at 4.1, and we lose about half in just those branches alone. So I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to come over to our segments. I'm going to drop our accuracy for this one. Actually, I kind of like this. I'm going to leave it at 18. I'm going to adjust our radial. I'm going to take our radial down to 8, maybe. Let's see if 6 looks bad. Ooh, 6 makes them too skinny. I'm going to go with 8. Just leave it there. That way we still get our nice connections and our branches don't look too bad at all. You can come down here, and if you're trying to save a few more, you can adjust the trunk also, but the trunk itself is only 400, so you're not going to save that much. This tree is not on a 63, which is not too bad at all. So let's turn these leaves back on. Let's take a look at this, and let's turn the wind on. Alright, very cool, very cool. So now we have our tree with our wind. And before we progress any further, I'm just going to save this. Take this to my SpeedTree folder. And maple demo. Alright. So, one common thing you might notice with this, all the leaves tend to face the camera at all times. No matter which angle you look at the tree, the leaves are always facing the camera. This is a feature of SpeedTree, and it's actually very nice in a lot of cases. I like it on my maple trees, however it can be disorienting depending on what type of tree it is. An example of this is I have a cherry blossom tree in one of my levels, and it can be very disorienting having all of the blossoms always look at the camera, whatever the camera angle is. That will also create interesting shadows on the ground if all the cards are facing the player and the dominant light is shining down at like 90 degrees. You'll see all the cards in the shadows, which is not generally what you want. An easy way to work around this, which Mikhail actually discovered, is to go into meshes. We'll add a mesh, this leaf card which I created earlier, and all that you essentially do is select your leaves, come down here, and instead of geometry cards, use the geometry recreated. Do that for all the leaves. And all of the cards are now no longer locked to the camera. And depending on how you want to build your tree, this could be the way you want it to go, it could not be. For this, it tends to work. It's good. I'm going to file, I'm going to save this out. It's already saved it, it's just going to go right where I had it. And I'm going to minimize this. Once you are at this point, I'm just going to make sure it's still here. Alright, cool. Now we're done with the modeler, we open up the compiler. Just going to add the tree. It looks like maple demp, but that's okay, we'll add it anyways. Our output folder, make sure you set this. And I'm just going to go to desktop. And our demo folder, I'm actually going to create a folder inside this called output. Alright, and we do want Billboard Atlas. I'm going to merge it with the texture atlas. And alright. From here you can probably just start compile, although I'm gonna come down here. We have texture atlas. Won't necessarily need that, I don't think. I'm gonna turn it on anyways. Pretty much just have all of these guys turned on. This is gonna create a 1K texture with billboards, and if you don't know, billboards are just flat images of our trees from 6 different angles, so that when you are really far away, your tree will pop out 2 different LODs. Ooh, that actually reminds me. Before we go any further, let's add some LODs to our tree. So with the tree selected, scroll to the top, you have level of detail. I'm going to turn this on. We want 3 linear plane. I'm going to make that 150. Far plane 250. Billboard start 251. Actually, I'm going to make that 300. And we're going to make billboard end at 400. These are just kind of some values. They'll depend on your level and how you set it up, but these are the values I'll be using for this purpose. Alright, so let me resave that out. I'm just gonna close this and reopen it. Add tree. Same settings. Alright, cool. So, here we go. Now with all these options selected and working, I'm going to start this, and here you see basically what it's going to output. I have it all going to the output folder just so it's all in one place, and there we go. So now let's open this folder and see what we got. Alright, so cool, we seem to have it all. Let's take a look at this. The bark and the normal all came out as individual textures, but our leaf texture went on there with the billboards, it looks like. And alright, that's cool. That's actually what we were going for. Not close, please. Alright. Very cool. So now, with all these things created, I'm just going to close some of these guys, and let's open up UDK. This is the final step of the project, or the process. If you watch Mikao's tutorial, this is essentially the same thing as importing grass into your scene. And I apologize for that UDK loading time. It'll be just one more second. Alrighty then. Alright, so with this open, I'm just going to come down here and I'm just going to go to new packages. It's going to go to untitled, or just new package itself is fine. Now let's go to untitled. Import, and I'm just going to import everything out of that output folder. Just say OK to all. And alrighty then. Here you can see all of our super fun things. And let's see, when you first try to drag it out, you'll notice that the SpeedTree does not actually show up. It shows up as invisible, it's not there. Either way, it's the problem. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to select all these guys. And normally you would just import this into your own package. However, since I don't have a package here, I'm just going to make one for SpeedTree tutorial. And okay. With that, we have this. So I'm just going to save this package real quick. This is again how you get your SpeedTree to show up. You need to save the package and then reopen UDK. So just under the maps, I'm just going to create a new folder called tutorials and just save it here. I'm saving it on the C drive, so I don't need to import a package afterwards. So now that that package is saved, I'm just going to close this. No, I don't really care about those, and then you just reopen UDK. If there is a faster or easier way to get your tree to show up in UDK, please let me know, because as it stands, this is the way I know how to do it. Alright, and with this all up and going, let's come down here and just... Alright, let's fully load our package, and when you do that, you should notice our tree comes in with all of its settings now, and as you bring it in, it's going to be super small, so let's just scale this guy up. Alright, and you can see it comes in with the wind animation already, and all this fun stuff. So, with that, I'm just going to create some materials for this real quick. And alrighty then. Let's pull these up. Again, this tutorial kind of assumes you already know what you're doing inside UDK, so I'm not really explaining what I'm doing here, I'm just doing it. And again, if you know UDK, you can take those textures and you can do a lot to them in here to make them look nice. Alrighty then. Now that we have these materials created, let's open up our SpeedTree node, and you can see we have all of our options in here to adjust. If maybe you want to add some strength to the wind, you can adjust it so that the wind is super strong, although I'm just going to leave it at 0.2 for now. You can also adjust the direction here so it can match your scene if you have separate lighting. Alright, so let me just apply these materials here. You probably don't need to apply them to all these areas, I'm just doing it so we don't miss anything anywhere. And alright, there you go. There is your SpeedTree in engine, working. Super nice, and the cards no longer always face the camera. The last thing I'm going to show you is super simple. And again, this isn't really a tutorial on UDK, but since I mentioned it earlier, I'm going to apply this so we can adjust the leaf colors. All I'm really doing is I'm creating a material that I can now instance. And alrighty. I'm actually going to apply that instance now to all of our materials there. And now the cool thing about this is when you take this, turn on this override, you can adjust what color the leaves are. And this is particularly nice because you can have several different trees that are really the same SpeedTree and give them different colored leaves. So, there you are. Oh, I guess I didn't save that. Get that green. And alright, there you go. Hope you enjoyed this tutorial. It's been on creating speed trees and all this fun stuff. Yeah, have a good night.